Oh, I think we are live. Day two of after I've launched my LinkedIn Live. We're also live if everything's working on Facebook and YouTube. So welcome back. Thank you for everyone who engaged in yesterday's conversation with Jen Snow of the US Air Force and David Schiff of the US Navy. What a great way to kick off, and a really fascinating conversation. That's on all my channels if you missed out and you want to catch up with it. It'll be great if you can tell me you're there. It helped yesterday. I think we had Rick O'Neill tell me I was live and I wasn't just broadcasting into a void. I'm hoping I'm not now, but if you're listening, say hello, let me know who you are and that you're there. I have got a great guest for you today, someone that I first met when I first ventured away from my previous networking business and went out on my own. So I would say that would be about 2007, so 14 years ago. We met when he was visiting the UK. He had to check that it was okay to meet with me because I'd previously been the dreaded competition. And since then, we've collaborated on the Global Networking Show. We've spoken on several interviews. Ivan's been kind enough to refer me on a few occasions as well, and supported books that I've published. So someone who's been, a big supporter that I really appreciate. So welcome, Ivan Misner.
Well, thank you, Andy. Thanks for having me here. Listen, seriously, I could count on one hand the number of people in the world outside of BNI directors that I would recommend as a true expert at networking, and you are on that hand.
I really appreciate that. Thank you, Ivan. And of course, I hope it goes without saying that you're way up there at the top as well. So it's great to have you here on what I hope is a live stream. So again, if you're listening, let me know, because we had lots of people telling me yesterday and I can't see anything, and I can't see the stats and everything that I got yesterday. So I'm getting a little bit paranoid that we're not actually live.
We can do this again. I'm always happy to get together.
Let's crack on and see what happens. And in worst case, I'll have a file and we can post it as if live, and I'll work out what went wrong afterwards. So we've just been chatting off air, or we may still be off air for all I know at the moment. But we've just been chatting off air. You've been having some weather in Texas.
A little bit. In Texas, it is -2 Celsius here. In Texas, and snow, 6 inches of snow. The city's not prepared at all for snow, so it has completely shut down.
Complete shutdown. So, and I think I saw the other day your pipes were bursting, and
they were frozen, and I was worried they would burst. So I talked to a friend of mine in Big Bear. I used to have a house in Big Bear, and he would take care of, up in the mountains. He would take care of all this. He said, "Okay, if they haven't burst yet, go down and put a heating blanket on the pipes and wrap them up." So duct tape and a heating blanket around the pipes. It took 2 days for them to unfreeze, but I now have water. This is my office. I now have water in my office, and I've got the water dripping so that it won't freeze again.
Great. I mean, I was reading the Times this morning, and they were talking about the electricity. I was thinking, well, this is not going to go ahead this afternoon, is it? And so on. So
the power hasn't gone out for me yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
well, fingers crossed.
All of a sudden I disappear. That's what happened.
Fingers crossed it won't. Stay safe and stay warm. We are live. We are streaming. We've got Liam Mulligan says hi, Ivan. Frank Vogel says all live and good quality. That's Facebook and LinkedIn covered. So that's great. I have to share this with you before we get into the meat of this, Ivan. So as you know, one of the things what we're focusing on today is my recent book, Just Ask, which you brought a great contribution to, and you got your copy there. Wonderful. Always good to have that. And our mutual friend and your neighbor in Dallas, John Jameson, sent me a photo yesterday from a Dallas parking lot. This is almost live update. This is 24 hours ago, and I want this number plate. So there you go.
I love it. That's fantastic.
So you have to track that down, because that's definitely the number plate for me. So that's the topic for today. We're going to talk about Just Ask and particularly your contribution. The subtitle of the book is Why Seeking Support is Your Biggest Strength, and it's to encourage people to be more vulnerable, to open up, to be willing to share and not feel as I think we are, we tend to be conditioned to show strength and independence,
Yes.
and to encourage people that, maybe not to everyone, but to have a trusted network where you can share and you can be open. And you brought several things to the party, so to speak, when we spoke for the book. So I wanted to touch on some of those. What I wanted to start with, obviously, for those people who don't know you, and I'm sure that's not many, you founded what's the world's largest referral organisation. BNI has chapters or
10,000
groups,
now.
10,000 chapters around the world. So you've got these networking groups, as we would call them, all over the world, operating every single week, I assume online in most places at the moment.
Yes.
And I think that's an environment, having run a similar business model myself in the UK, it's an environment where people feel they need to show up strong.
Yeah.
If I'm going to get people to refer me, they've got to have confidence in me, therefore they need to see that strength. What role do you think that vulnerability and openness and authenticity play in that type of networking environment, and how have you seen it sort of show up in the past?
I have, and it does. I think first you have to build the relationship, because if you're almost too open too quickly, people are like, wait a minute. So it's all about, and I think you would agree, Andy, networking is more about farming than it is about hunting. It's about cultivating relationships. But once you have that relationship, I think it's really important to show up authentic. And I've got one just amazing story out of a BNI group where this woman had been a member for several years, that her business was good, but something happened. I forget what happened in her industry, but all of a sudden she was really, really struggling. And she didn't share that with the chapter, but she shared it with one of the members. And she was talking about the fact that she might have to close her doors in 30 days. And he said, you've got to tell the chapter so they know, because sometimes you're just not top of mind, and they need to know you are loved in the chapter. They need to know that you're struggling. She's like, I don't think I can do that. And he said, can I do it for you? And she said, you would? And he said, yeah, I'd love to. And she said, yes. And so he, towards the end of a meeting, he said, I don't know if you guys know this. And he told a little bit of her story. And he said, she's really nervous saying this, but look, we love this member. She's fantastic. Let's all wrap her around, let's wrap ourselves around her emotionally and through referrals. And let's really try to help her get through this difficult time. And Andy, it was amazing what happened. People really just went out of their way to find referrals and find business for her. She not only made it through those 30 days, she made it through 6 months, she made it through a year. And she absolutely said it was because she was authentic, although it was difficult for her to do it, but because somebody else said, look, let's help her. She accepted that, and it saved her business. And that's what I think we need to do when you have the relationship with someone where you can do that.
I think that's such an important point, and there's several points within that I'd want to bring up, actually, and spotlight. So let's start with the main point of that, and that was that it was easier for someone else to share her vulnerability rather than for her to do it herself. And almost a reverse of that, but along the same theme, is one of the things that came out of writing the book was that people do find it very hard to ask for help for themselves, but a lot easier to ask for help for others or for a cause.
Yes.
And very often that can mean understanding why you need the help, the impact the help on you is going to have on other people. And to position it like that, or in her case, find someone who will do it for you. We've got Vidya who's said that's such a powerful point, and absolutely agree. It's just this ability to enroll people into supporting us makes such a difference.
And we have in BNI the phrase "givers gain." And so what's happened sometimes is people are giving, and they forget the second part of that, which is gain. And so it's okay to ask for help when you need it and when you have that relationship.
Well, you'll be aware of Stephen Covey's theory of emotional bank accounts.
Speed of trust.
And he says, you have to invest in the bank account first. You have to invest in the relationship before you withdraw. One of my spins on that is you also have to withdraw.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be a quid pro quo. It doesn't have to be, one of the things I say is you don't walk into a bank paying £10 or $10, and then when you need to withdraw, you get the same $10 note back. It's a
Yeah.
different one. So you might give to
Well,
one
that's a
person and
great
receive
analogy.
from another. But
See,
it's
this is
very
why
much.
you're an expert at networking. That's a great analogy.
Let's see. We got a comment here from someone on LinkedIn. Psychological safety is being able to show and employ oneself without fear of negative consequence of self-image, status, or career. Absolutely right. And I'm going to come on shortly. In fact, my next question is to look at what stops people opening up. And I think these fears of negative consequences really come to that. But before I do, I did say that there were other things I wanted to spotlight from the story that you shared. And one of the stories I share in the book is when I realized I wasn't asking for help, and I changed my mindset. My business was really struggling at the time. And I bumped into a colleague of mine in a private members club in London, and he asked how business was. And I was honest for the first time. And I said, we're struggling. I got 2 referrals from him in the next 2 weeks. He had never referred me before. So some way down the line, I raised this with him, and I said, you'd never referred me before that. And he said, I never thought you needed it. So if we don't,
Oh, wow.
if we're constantly portraying this image of strength, people don't think we need help. They're not going to refer us, support us, advise us, not because they don't want to, but
Right.
because they
They're
don't perceive a
willing.
need to. Yeah,
Yeah.
don't perceive a need to. And then the third thing that I picked up from the story that you shared. So I was trying to remember what the third point was. So we have allowing someone else to share for you. We have allowing people the ability to help. Yes, you said that she didn't tell everyone, she told one person. This isn't about going out and, in London, we traditionally have in Hyde Park, in the centre of London, we have Speaker's Corner. I don't know if you've ever heard of Speaker's Corner. It's very famous.
I have.
They have people stand there on ladders and soapboxes and so on with megaphones or whatever they can lay their hands on, and they'll speak out loud. That's not what I'm suggesting. You have a close, trusted network. People you feel will listen without judgment, will listen objectively, and who will hold a confidence. So find those people around you. So let's
Yeah,
go to that.
and he asked for permission
Yeah,
to share that,
yeah,
which I think is
absolutely.
important, and that she was willing. She was just embarrassed.
Exactly, and it's that trusting that confidence. I can share with you, and if you ask me to if you can share that on, and I say no, you'll respect that, and I think that's really important. We have to have that trust in place. So we had this comment about psychological safety, and I wanted to ask you what stops people from opening up in your mind. Why do you think people are reluctant to share?
Well, I think there's a stoicism in business people to, not show weakness. I think, just like you said, you were telling people things are good, and it wasn't until you finally said to someone, "Well, I'm actually struggling," and it's hard to take that leap. It's a little bit like, stepping off a cliff, because you don't know how people are going to respond. And I have always found that if you have a relationship, they'll respond positively. It's when you don't have any relationship that they may back off. But with a relationship, that's what a network is for. That's why investing in other people. I have a friend, I don't know if I've ever told you this story, but years ago, he reached out to me and he had this idea and he started to explain it. And I thought he was going to pitch me on something. And I'm like, Alex, I've already got my budget scheduled. He's like, no, I want to experiment with this. I want to try it out. And I don't want to charge you for it. I need to learn about it as well. So would you do this with me? And I'm like, well, it benefits me more than you. He said, yeah, it's okay. So for every other month for an entire year, he kept coming to me with these new ideas, and he never asked for anything. And then one day, Alex calls me up after a year, and he said, "Ivan, I have a favor to ask you." And I said, "Stop. The answer is yes. What is it I'll be doing?" And he said, "I haven't even told you what it is." I said, "Alex, you've been doing nothing but pouring into me, pouring into this relationship. And now you are asking for a favor. I can't imagine you're going to ask for anything I wouldn't be willing to do. So the answer is yes. What is it that I'll be doing? And he told me, and it was so easy for me, but it was really helpful for him. And that's what social capital is about. It's that investment over and over and over again. And then when you need a withdrawal, someone is more than happy to give it.
Definitely. And you know, you use that term relationships, and we hear the term relationship capital as well. And it is, you invest in, and people will always be there for you. And one of the key things there is that he made it easy for you to say yes. And for me, one of the biggest reasons we don't ask for help is that we don't want to be a burden. So when he approached you, it's like, can I ask you a favor? You don't know what it is yet, because he was nervous about asking you. And yet I bet you got pleasure when you helped him, particularly if you know. So
I did.
we don't.
I felt like I was able to contribute back.
Definitely. So we don't ask because we don't want to be a burden. We're denying people pleasure, the pleasure of helping us, as long as we make it easy for them. Our friend Neil Giller has just commented, and he likes the phrase pouring into the relationship, pouring into this relationship. So good to see you here, Neil. So Ivan, you know, one of the things we share in the book is that you went through this yourself, you know, and I'm sure there's many times where you've asked for support and asked for help, but it's happened to you a couple of times in a big way, where you've had to be very open and vulnerable. The first is a few years ago, when you were diagnosed with cancer. And you shared the full story with me, the whole journey, and what you went through in terms of, it wasn't just about how you shared the news of your cancer diagnosis, but it was also about how you had to approach, how do I share the news of my decision on the treatment, which wasn't necessarily the most traditional approach. So maybe you can share a little bit of the background of that. And then what I really wanted to get across today was the steps you took, how you divided your network up to share the message at the right stages.
So it was actually now 9 years ago that I was originally diagnosed with cancer, and I took a holistic approach. It is in 9 years. I'm still in remission, and I never did surgery, radiation, or chemotherapy. I was told I had 6 months to get one of those, and so I did take a non-traditional approach. I would say it would be concentric circles. I started with my family. Told my family first. Then I kind of went out from that. I told key members of my staff, the executive staff. Next, I actually created a list of the people that I was going to tell when and how. And I decided early on that I was going to be completely transparent with it for a couple of reasons. I like to be transparent. It's easier, to be transparent because stuff gets out. And I run the world's largest network. Yeah. People talk. I knew it would get out. So I wanted to manage the message because I decided early to do a holistic approach. So I went to, executive staff. I went to then all the staff. And then I went to my franchisees. And then I went public. I think that was the order. And it's in your book. I give you the exact order. Because I had written it out. I still have the notes of who I was going to ask when. And then I told everybody, I will continue to post on my blog exactly what's happening, good, bad, or ugly. Whatever's happening, I'll post on my blog every couple of 3 months. And I did. If you go back to my blog at ivanmisner.com and search on cancer, you'll find that I fairly regularly talked about how I was doing. So there was less fear because I was still running the company at that time. And there was a lot less fear from people. There were still some, but it dissipated pretty quickly as they saw me move into health. I am glad I did it. I think everyone is the captain of their own ship. And if you don't want to do it, I can't fault you on that. But I just knew it would get out. And if it got out, it might be, oh my God, Ivan's dying. He's got cancer. He's only got somebody hears 6 months. He only has 6 months to live. And I wanted to help manage that message. I saw somebody put control the message. I don't know that you can completely control it, but you can help manage it and guide it. And that's what I did.
Yeah, that was Bal, who I think's been through a similar experience, and she said she completely understands. I think she said taking control, and that's
Yes, that
slightly
it is.
different. Yeah,
It is. You're absolutely right.
yeah, and I think that is a key part of this. That you're, yes, you can't control what happens out there, but you can certainly influence it, and you can certainly do your best to manage what people are saying. And I think that was one of the things that came across to me when we first spoke about this, was that, you know, not only did you run a global business, but it was a global business of groups of people who got together and chatted when you weren't there. So,
Yeah.
you know, I know that from my own experience in the UK, and that's a very hard environment to use that term, to control, let alone manage. So, you know, putting it on your blog, communicating it clearly, involving everyone each step of the way is absolutely key as well. Kerry, welcome. Your little Kerry's watching from YouTube, and I think that's the first YouTube comment I've had across the two broadcasts. So that's great. We're hitting all the
Yeah.
platforms now. We got a question from Vidya. She said it isn't very easy to ask because people tend to judge you. So how do we make it easy? Let me just pop that on screen as well so you can see it.
Yeah, I think you're right when there isn't a good relationship. But when there is a good relationship, when you've been pouring into other people and helping other people, yeah, you said it, Andy. You want to help. I wanted to help Alex. As a matter of fact, I even said to him throughout that year, Alex, is there anything I can do for you? And he's like, no, no, I'm good. Because I understand that it is giver's gain. And so it goes both ways. And finally, when he asked, and he was so hesitant to ask, I was happy to do it. So I think that what she said is true if you don't have the relationship. I think it is not true generally if you do have a relationship with
Yeah.
somebody.
I think that's a great distinction, and it comes back. You know, I think we've got a if you excuse the pun, we've got a common currency here, because it's back to the emotional bank accounts.
Yeah.
It is invest in the relationships, build those relationships, and then trust that people. If you've invested in relationships over time, if you've got real rapport, if you've got commonality, if you've helped them, or they know you would, which I think is equally as important. You don't have to have helped them, as long as they know that the intent would be there. Trust that people won't judge you, and if they do, they're giving you a key sign about, you know, what their true nature is,
Right.
as
And that's
well.
probably not somebody you want to be networking with anyway.
Exactly. So you know, I mentioned there had been two experiences that you'd faced where you've been openly vulnerable, very publicly, in a broad way, and the second is very recent. So thank you for letting us talk about it, and we've talked separately about, you know, my condolences, but your lovely wife Elizabeth passed away a few months ago, very young, very sudden, and it was a big loss. I had the pleasure of meeting Elizabeth. I think it was in Manchester.
Yes.
And she was a delightful woman. So that was tough, and I know that that's still tough and still raw, and I would expect it to
Yeah.
be. But you have been open. I mean, obviously you had to announce it, but you've written some very moving blogs, and posted social media updates about that. How much did your experience of being vulnerable around the cancer inform how you were, with Elizabeth, and how has that public sharing and the responses you've had, how have they impacted you, positively and negatively?
So I probably should, well, the cancer definitely informed my being public about Elizabeth. I mean, we were married 31 years, and she was 8 years younger than me, and women tend to live longer. And so everything in my plan was to prepare for Elizabeth to live beyond my life. And so this is a completely new normal for me. And it was, she had gadolinium poisoning from an MRI, and we were treating that and treating that and treating that. And she even said to me, Andy, if this were cancer again, I would know what to do, because she went into remission from cancer.
Yeah.
And finally, a doctor said, that this could possibly be cancer as well. And she had 8 days to live after that. And so it hit me hard, obviously. And I think, being transparent. I've been very transparent with individuals who I feel comfortable telling, details of the whole horrific situation. But I've also been reasonably transparent on my blogs in sharing things that were very moving to me and not business related at all. Like you may have saw the necklace
Yeah.
blog. Wait, do you mind if I tell that story?
Please do. Please do.
So my daughters, my daughter, two daughters, and daughter in love, as my wife used to call her, not daughter-in-law, were at the house, and I wanted to give them some of Elizabeth's jewelry. And so we were going through her jewelry box, and I said, "There's only two things that I want of Elizabeth, and over time, I will give all of you all of her jewelry." And so I wanted her wedding ring, and I wanted to keep a necklace. And you can find this on my blog at Ivan Misner. It's called The Necklace. I wanted to keep this necklace because it just had a lot of memories. We had a wonderful, long, extended weekend in New Orleans, and it was a heart with a lock and a key, gold with some diamonds on it. It was beautiful, but it wasn't her most expensive piece. But I wanted to keep it because of the memories. And she wore it a lot. It's in a lot of pictures. And so we're going through all the jewelry. Couldn't find it. Couldn't find it anywhere. And Ashley said, "Well, sometimes women put it in their purses." So we looked through all of her purses. Oh my God, Andy. She had 54 purses. I had no idea. 54 purses and pocketbooks. So I was distraught, really distraught. And I hadn't had any dreams about Elizabeth. It had been 2 weeks. I hadn't had any dreams. But that night I had a dream that was so vivid. I sat up in bed and I wrote it down. And the dream was what appeared to be Elizabeth's hands reaching up to me and opening a pocketbook, a small purse pocketbook.
Yeah.
And I looked inside, didn't see it. I woke up. I didn't see what was in it. But I thought, that's a strange dream to have. And about a week later, one of my daughters was over and she wanted to find something of Elizabeth's. And there were some bags in a pantry. And she said, "Can I go through it?" And I said, "Yes." And I said, "If you find that necklace, tell me." She said, "Of course." And I thought, should I tell her this dream? It's so weird, and she's not very new agey, nor am I, by the way. I'm a very left brain business guy. And I thought, should I tell her? She'd think I'm crazy. And so I said, "What the heck? It's my child. I'll tell her." So I told her the story. And as I finish and say, and I saw these hands open up this pocketbook, Dorian said, "Does it look like this?" And he opened up a pocketbook and pulled out the necklace. And I realized it wasn't in my dream. It wasn't my wife's hands. It was our daughter's hands, because I never saw Elizabeth in my dream. But it happened just like it. And I thought that was so powerful and so miraculous that I wrote about it. And certainly things like that I've been very transparent about.
So when you write about a dream like that and you put it on your blog, sort of feels awkward asking a question after a story like that, but are you doing it for yourself? Are you doing it
Yes.
for other people? It's just so that you want to record it.
First and foremost, it was such a powerful, moving story to me. I had to get it out.
Yeah.
And then secondly, it would be for other people, because I know other people who've had dreams about loved ones that were prophetic. And by the way, that wasn't the only one. I've had a couple dreams that were totally prophetic. Elizabeth came to a dream one night and said, "Look for the note." And I said, "Yeah, okay. What note? I don't know what note you're talking about." And she said, and I haven't written about this yet. She said, "Just look for the note." And I was like, "Okay, I'll look for the note." I had no idea what note. I didn't know what vitamins I took. Elizabeth would always, it was like the vitamin fairy. There would be these packets that would show up every morning, and I would take these vitamins, and I didn't know what I was taking. And when I have a place in Galveston, on Galveston Island, and I was there, and I started looking around for notes, and there was the list of the vitamins that I was supposed to be taking. And I thought, oh my God, it was like, just look for the note. And it was a note in her handwriting of all the vitamins I was supposed to take. So I think things like that are comforting to other people, and it certainly is comforting to me.
I think it is important to share these things and to let you know. One of the biggest things about vulnerability, we've talked a lot about it in terms of how it can help you to be more vulnerable. What we haven't talked explicitly about, but what you've intimated there, is that it's powerful for other people when we're vulnerable. They know they're not alone,
Yeah.
and it validates it.
But I'm the kind of person that if they think that's weird, that's their problem, not
Yeah.
mine. And I
Well,
think people have issues with that. I don't know why, but that's their problem, not mine. I'm good with who I am.
absolutely. Well, I know I've got former girlfriends and friends of mine who will watch this and punch me and go, look, look, look. But actually, in Just Ask, I share a dream that led to the book finally getting written. It was a dream that gave me the structure that was eluding me. I dreamt that myself and two colleagues were writing the book, and I was writing one part, and it was courage, and another was writing about strategy, and another was writing about action. And I woke up and I said, "That's it." So there is something there, and obviously, when it's about a loved one, it's even more impactful. Ivan, thank you so much for being open and vulnerable as as per topic and as I would
Thank you, Andy.
expect.
Can I recommend a podcast for those people who
Please
may
do.
have
Yeah.
lost a spouse, or for if you know someone who has lost a spouse? I have found this podcast to really give me great solace. It's a great name. You know the term, what do we do now? This podcast is called Widow We Do Now. Widow. Widow We Do Now. And it's done by two ladies in the United States. I know there are people in the UK listening to it because, and all over the world, because they talk about comments that they've gotten. And they have a private Facebook group only for widows and widowers. They allowed me to join. It's called Widow We Do Now. And they also have a private Facebook page. One of the things I learned a lot of things there. One of the things I learned, because in running a large organization, I have people whose spouses die. I've learned what to say and what not to say. And some of the things they've taught me on what not to say, I know I've done. And so it changed the way I will talk to people who have lost a spouse. And so I'd really recommend it. Widow We Do Now. And of course, BNI. Anyone who wants to go to
Of
BNI.com.
course. I will have a look. I'll find the podcast and I'll put it into the comments. Unless anyone listening wants to do that right now, I will go in afterwards and I'll put it in the comments so people can find that. Thank you very much, Ivan. Ivan, hang on there for a second, but let me just remind everyone that tomorrow I'm going to hit my hat trick of live streaming to kick these off with Rebecca Seal. Rebecca is an Observer and Guardian journalist. She's a food writer, wrote a number of the Leon cookbooks amongst others, and she's just published her seventh book, which isn't about food, it's about working alone. It's called Solo, How to Work Alone on your own without losing your mind, and I'm reading it at the moment and it's fantastic. It's full of excellent advice. So Rebecca will be joining me at 4 o'clock. What better way to end your week than to listen to Rebecca tell me all about working alone. So that's 4 o'clock GMT tomorrow, Friday. So hopefully I will see you there, and keep your eye open for more live streaming. Ivan, thank you very much again for joining me. I think that was fantastic, as it always is.
Thank you, my friend. I appreciate it. And I appreciate you. And
Thank
anytime
you.
you need something, just ask.
Just ask.